So this is from work I did with the Oncology Thinking Camp, Clinical Trial Wizards. So we were helping medical students learn about designing clinical trials. And we studied a lot of the proposals that physicians put in to design trials. And we tried to infer the experiment schema that they used. And we designed this according to a kind of experiment schema, partly based on Kevin Dunbar's work. One thing, though, that's interesting in terms of our black box and glass box thinking is that we make the students really pay attention to that. They have to think about dosages. They have to think about what side effects will make you take people off the treatment and when you're going to take them out of the study altogether. But there's this statistical piece that we just didn't really care a whole lot about them learning. So we embedded the computations in there, and we call that a black box scaffold because that was just not what we needed them to learn. The stellar sidewalk is really simple. It reminds students what steps they need to do. It's got dates when things are due. Helps us maintain the agenda. WISE also has an inquiry map that tells the students, that communicates the patterns that students need to investigate to follow a task. So along the right side here. Then actually I don't know if it's fine. There's also scaffolds that elicit articulation. And these are reminders and guidance to talk and reflect during sense making. And we see them in WISE. I think you can see some of them back here, except if I point here, you don't know what I'm pointing. So places where it tells you to take notes, what to take notes about. In Stellar, we had students in step 8, they had structured reflection prompts where we asked them to abstract what they learned, think about where they would use this information in the future, where they had seen it in the past, how did they do as a self-directed learner, as a collaborator, and what would they do differently next time. And then Sandoval and Reiser have the explanation constructor, again, to provide, to help facilitate constructing a disciplinary explanation. So it helps the students figure out what the right kinds of questions are. There's also scaffolds that can support collaboration, and I actually thought I would find a lot more of these, given all the work on computer-supported collaborative learning. And I found many fewer than I expected. So first there's the facilitator, who invites participation and monitors dynamics. The facilitator still stays important. I'll show you in a minute an example of a collaboration script. And then there's procedural facilitation, or what used to be called procedural facilitation, and now just called the scaffolds in Knowledge Forum. And what I really hoped to find a screenshot of, but did not, was Thinker Tools has social advice agents. So they have agents who give you advice about collaborating, debating, mediating, and communicating. So those are some of the ways that it can help provide advice. So here's an example of a script from Weinberger, Fisher, and Mondel. This script is to have students just do it in, I believe it's a case analysis and a threaded discussion. So student A starts their analysis. The next two students are critics. Student A replies. The students do some more critiquing, and then there's a final analysis. So everybody has a role. There's also scaffolds in Knowledge Forum. Some of these I think are more implicit as collaboration scaffolds, but needing to be able to talk about having a different opinion from somebody else, or trying to understand, putting our knowledge together. So some of these help students bring together the knowledge across their individual ideas. So where does that leave us with, I think, a very quick trip through maybe the last 15 years of technology. So because situating inquiry is hard, there's been a lot of work in this area. I think there's consensus among the learning sciences community, though it's not non-controversial by any means, that learning is best situated in the practices of a discipline. about technology for supporting inquiry learning really involves thinking about it as a system and not just isolated pieces of technology. And I think the social infrastructure framework does a really nice job of making that clear. Because as we're designing the system, we need to think about what are the conceptual, strategic ideas that are important. What kind of social structures do we need? And then how does the technology support what we want it to support? So thinking about what is it we want to accomplish, and then what are the roles for technology? I know I keep harping on this point, but it's really important to be able to have students be able to do what they're trying to do. It's quite frustrating for students to be given a task that they don't stand a chance to accomplish. But you also don't want them to accomplish the task at the expense of learning anything, or to have it become an arts and crafts project, because I think we've probably all seen that happen. And then one of the questions I always like to ask, and I think it's an important part of design-based research, which is a methodology deeply grounded in the learning sciences, is that we need to not ask the question of what works, but we need to ask the question of under what circumstances. Under what circumstances are different kinds of scaffolds useful? Are different kinds of approaches to inquiry useful? Under what circumstances do these different designs lead to different kinds of learning? And I think it can be quite dangerous to get into the constructivist wars that have gone on fairly recently, and I guess I've been knee-deep in. But thinking about, I always think it's the under what circumstances question, because none of these is a right answer for every situation. And trying to think in terms of your theory and your learning goals, where they go,